Okay. All right. I think I've got everything laid out here correctly. Microphone's being a little weird. But yeah, I'm just working on this shot here in Moho for an animation for a music video that's got a lot of Native American kind of themes. And yeah, there's some spiritual women sitting around a fire. I need to put the faces on at least these two and animate the fire here to start with. So you need to figure out where my drummers are. I'm gonna probably add a face to these ladies here too. I was gonna say guys, but you know, evidently none of that matters anymore. Okay, so I'm gonna put a face here and go ahead and draw in a face. It's just gonna be a sort of face-like shape here behind the other, and I'm gonna go ahead and make this a much thinner stroke here, probably a 2, maybe even a 1, but let's do a 1.5 to start with. We'll just stick with that. It looks pretty close. No details on these though. This is just gonna really be basically the same color as this. So we're just going to do that kind of thing. These are sort of faceless. We're never going to see them. So let me also try and maybe get this a little more human-like. There we go. And then I'm just going to take this particular layer here and duplicate it. And we're just going to call it face also, because I don't need that to say face 2. We're going to chuck it in the, let me just see here. I'm going to wait on that one. I'm going to put this here on this one, I believe. So we're going to drag it into drummer 3. Make sure also now that I have that in the right spot. So right behind the hair. And then we're going to take it and I'm going to flip it. Where's my layer? There it is. And let's just go ahead and center this so it flips it at that point. I'm going to move this over to here to basically make a face on this person. And I guess we can use that as our beginning, the foundation for the other faces here. So I'm just going to duplicate it again, pull this up into drummer 5, which drummer 5 is this far away one. And let's just take this face, throw it behind the hair, figure out where it's at, pull it over here, and then we gotta flip it just to get the general shape going. I might add an eyebrow to this one. I'm not sure. They're a bit weirdly thin. This one is anyway. So I might make the back of her head a little bigger or something. But so pull this out just slightly like this. I'm going to reshape that hair because that's pretty weird. And let's just make this one also peaked. There we go. Something like that. Feels a little more natural. Maybe pull these out slightly as well. I think that was all feeling a little strangely shaped. This is still kind of weird here. And just kind of get an idea here maybe now. It's not bad, but we will need some type of eye or whatever on this one. So above the face now, we're going to group this with the face. I'm going to put just a brow here to see what that probably should be. It's like a couple of points. I don't want a perfect profile. This needs to be kind of a 3/4 away profile, so this will be probably smaller overall there. Just go ahead and throw this in as an actual stroke here, and then I'll figure out what needs to be done. Something like that. Just a little hint, you know. And maybe even an eye corner. Just kind of make it look a bit like these in the same style anyway. But we're just going to get like the little corner of the eye, so it doesn't have to have a pupil, anything like that, unless for some reason we need to show that, but I don't think so. Just peek that. Maybe round that one a bit there and there. And then chuck in the old stroke for it. Make that a bit smaller, obviously. Maybe to 0.75, something like that. Maybe lower it a little bit. So the face shape is obviously not perfect yet either. So I'll pull this back. That's not bad. Let's kind of pull the eye down though. See if that eyebrow, yeah, that's a little better. So I don't see, you know, doing much more than that for those side ones. Maybe an ear, but I kind of don't want ears on them. So I think what I'm going to do for the hair is just pull this more forward again. Let's get a smaller brush, a little more like that. I think just feels a little more natural. And then duplicate this stuff. So we're just going to grab all these, group it, call it head or face. It's fine. I'm going to close that up, and I'm going to duplicate that one and stick it in our other drummer's face here. Let's just figure out which one this is. This is probably 6. Yep. So we're going to grab this face, stick this into the 6th body here. And where did I put it? No one knows. So right here in 6, let's stick that just behind the hair. And then we need to obviously move that. There it is. Readjust hair or whatever we need to. Let me go ahead and figure out like this. This one needs to be here. And close enough. I mean, I can add a few more lines here if I really need to, but I don't know that it's absolutely necessary given what this shot is. These are very in shadow bodies, so I'm not really horribly worried about that. I could add a little more darkness toward these corners or something just to help sell that a little bit. I don't think that that's even necessary. I'm going to figure out now what has bones. I think some of these may, so I'm just going to go here to their bone layers. Those do not. That one does. The point of that is if he can move a little bit, or you know, whatever, because these two ladies are gonna kind of look up and over to the right, I think, at some point when they hear rustling in the bushes. So yeah, if you guys are watching, say hey. I just made a little note there in the chat. And so the next thing also we're going to do is create a, using some liquid shapes, I'm going to create a fire here, which would be kind of cool for anybody to watch who has not seen that kind of thing. But let's go ahead and attach these bones to this particular woman. I was going to say dude here. And let me just make sure I'm on frame 0. And I think we should add one more bone here for the head. So I'm gonna sort of you know what, let's throw a neck. Why not? A neck funicello even. And we'll just go like this. That's probably okay. And I'm gonna sort of straighten or fix some of this because that's a little weird. There we go. And now we can start adjusting all this out. So my parenting is right. I believe we're just going to make all of the lower body attached to that particular bone. So we're going to go to drummer 3. We're going to go to legs. Obviously, that's just going to get swapped directly to this layer. So we'll just go pow. And then the body, we're going to have to break this up. So with point binding. So we're going to use this bone, I'm sorry, the lower bone, there we go. And we're going to say all of these points will stay. Yeah, that's probably, as a matter of fact, let's take that one too. And we'll say bind those. We'll take the next bone here and bind these points. Yeah, I think that's fine. With these, let's even take that one. And then the next bone is going to have these. Yeah, I think that's fine. And then the next bone, the way I'm judging that is you want basically the bone, when this moves, you can imagine what it's going to move, but I'm really thinking when this bone moves, what's it going to move down the line there. So, because this bone will move this bone, there's no worries there. But what's this one going to flex? Kind of a way is how I'm thinking. All right, cool. So now we need to bind the head, because right now it's going to work, but things are going to look weird. I'll just show you. Everything will work pretty okay. Let me turn off my strength of my bones here. So this one goes, this one goes, this one goes. And I like to turn the bone strength off just because it's less problematic for me. There's bone linking you can do. I don't usually do it, but it's something I was probably going to try and play around with a little bit to see what works best. So this is all working. This is working except for this loopiness, which I can fix, no problem. And we also need to bind this arm. So this arm is going to now go with, let's say, we'll start here with this bone. And I'm going to bind the points, just bind these bottom points right here to it. And then the next will be, because he's not going to move in this shot or this setup at all. He's not going to move, or she is going to move her arm any differently than those placements that it's at. If they were going to get up, move around, or whatever, then I would select this in a very different way. But that's fine. That way now when we move this bone, we get kind of this thing going. And seeing that's not too bad. I don't care for this weird stretch, but I don't even think that's going to be happening. So I'm thinking let's include those 2 points with the lower bone here and bind those. That way when this moves, that's a lot more fluid looking. This works, yeah, and everything stays grounded, which is good. Hey, if you're watching, say hello. I don't know how many people I got watching or anything. I'm not monitoring that, but let me know if you're watching. All right, so now we need the hair, face, etc. So let's go ahead to the face. I'm just going to bind this completely as a layer to the head bone. Boom. And then the hair obviously will need to be spaced out across these bones here. So back to our select bone here and our point binding. We're just going to grab all these, make this part of the head, of course. Then this bone in the neck. Yeah, we'll go ahead and just grab a couple of those dudes. Maybe just like that. Maybe not even those, but bind those. And I think that these should probably include that one. And that's probably good. It's probably good. Yeah. All right, we'll use all those. And then now, of course, this last one will include the tail end of the hair. Should probably include that one too. And say, yeah. So now when we move everything, you can see the head moves the hair a little, the neck moves a little. We can correct all this overlap. This one moves, which is not too bad. And of course, this one stays here. And that one's more of an anchor, as you can see, for when the body moves, the hair doesn't pull up. But I'm starting to think maybe we should put that with that bone. So why not? Let's see what it looks like. With that one selected, we'll include these points with that. That way when this part moves, the hair goes with it. I think that does look better. Okay, cool. So that figure is rigged. Other than the corrections. We could go on and do the corrections now. That's fine. So back up to that particular character's bone layer. Let's go ahead and say for the body bone, I'm just going to move it around, see what happens. That one seems to be mostly okay. There could be a small correction here, but I don't really even see that being an issue. I think that's fine. Let's go to the next one though, and you can see the arm has an issue. This has an issue here. Not that we need it, but we're going to fix it. So we're going to drop over here into our actions for that particular bone. This one's going to be back to, let's call it, or spine to, either one. And we're going to make an action for it. Sure. Just come up to 48. And with that, I'm going to move a couple of spots here. Let's say that it's going to go to here. If they wanted to bend that far, they could. And then we're going to go down to our body layer and fix that. And that's all there is to it. It's very simple. Whoops, not that. It's very simple though, so. Let's just see if that works. Looks pretty good to me. Make sure that works there. Yep, all good. So that's back 2. We can go back to the main line now. That should be fine. Let's do another one for it called back 1 or back to 2. Let's see. We're going to need to go to the bone layer and add another one for that back to 2, and then we will hit frame 48 and move this one over the other way. This is where we fix our arm, and we're going down here to the body. The body is not horrible, but it does need a tweak. I mean, this person is wearing like a robe thing, so you know, just leave that kind of smooth. The arm is where the main problem is. So that would be more like, maybe more like that. We'll just test it here. Yeah, I think that's fine. And remember, this is just for the arms flex here, so I think that works. Cool. All right, so back to the main line again. Now we'll work on the next bone up. This one is going to be the neck bone. And we need, let's just call this one neck. That way we can check and make sure that it's a good, well, that it's the correct bone for the action. So we'll say, okay, neck. I'm just going to come over 48. Do the same thing. All right. Yeah, if you guys are watching, let me know, and thank you. But if you are, just say hey in the chat. Just going to tip the neck forward here. It's a bit extreme, but it's still is good. I mean, is what it should be, or something like that I'm trying to say. Let's just see. Alright, so let's move this point up just slightly, and this one maybe kind of not so extreme. There we go. And then the hair is going to be the issue, so let's check what that should be doing. So this guy should definitely not be doing all that weirdness. And this one can go ahead and do this. Let's see. That works. Okay, so back to main line. Now we're going to do another action for that same bone the other way, neck 2. And in neck 2 we're going to move the bone the other direction, which obviously needs some work. And I have to save this before I lose it. It gets weird sometimes and scares me. It's being a little weird. Time for some coffee. And of course it's cold already. I think one of the best investments I will ever make when I do is going to be a mug warmer. Alright, so let's fix the hair. This should not be doing that. But let's do the body first, just because it's most obviously wonky. Like, it should not be warping the body to move the neck a little bit like that. Well, at least not that much. Let me just double check it, make sure it looks better. And then now the hair is the problem that's left. I'm going to move the obvious one first. Let's see. Goes from here, which in my opinion this one should be here anyway. And then when we come back here, let's go ahead and move this guy down a little like that. I can kind of stretch this out slightly because it's going to increase that volume there. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Head banging. Okay. Back to the main line, and now the head bone, specifically in the bone layer, needs action. So we'll call this one head. And then we'll be, yep, moving it. This one will come down at frame 48. The same way. Shouldn't have too many problems with this one, but I want to make sure that this little loop isn't happening. So on the hair, which is where our problem will be, just going to check that and see, yep, this should not be diving below that, nor should this, and this can still be up, but let's see what happens here. Yeah, I think that's fine. Then back to the main line. This is going to be head 2, so we're making one more action for it. Sadly, all these characters have to have all these actions, otherwise stuff starts to get wiggy. We have to make sure they can move, that all of them can move this way. So this is just going to be a hair thing here, apparently. I'm going to move, I think, this point just a little bit forward. And then this one, obviously, back a little more. I think that works. Okay. Cool. So now if we wanted to, the whole point of this is so we can animate the character if it wanted to rock back and forth or raise its head up. You can see we can get any of these motions, any of this motion, you know, like it's singing or looking up at the smoke or whatever, you know. If I wanted to, we could get a bit of a head turn this way. The face will disappear, the head shape will change, and that'll be 99% of what it is. So I think it's not a bad idea to throw that in there. So to do that, we need to go back on our bone layer here and make sure none of our bones are selected. It's a big issue. And I'm just going to put a bone right above the person's head and call this turn. I think at some point they should turn to the noise in the forest. That might not be warranted, and it may be just adding more than necessary, but I think it would be much cooler to have it. So we're gonna actually turn on our label here now, so we can see that's what that's for, and create a smart bone dial here. Let me make sure that I am where I'm supposed to be. Yep, that's fine. This only needs to go 0 to 90, I think. I think that's the direction I want to turn in. We only need 48 frames for that, I think. We'll say OK. So now this will, I went the wrong direction. Let's go ahead and undo that, because that's going to be kind of difficult to do. Let's go bone, smart bone dial, and instead of 0 to 90, we're going to go 90 to, is that what I want? Negative 90 to positive 90. This is going to be 0 to 90. That's 0 to 90. We need to go 90 to 180, I think, is going to be how that should work. We'll see. Nope, 0 to 180 is what it's going to make me do. All right, that's completely wrong. So let's go back and fix this. I just want it to flip this way. So bone. I'm going to redraw that bone because for some reason it's hanging on to the old issue. Why is my bone not deleting? I'm not on frame 0, that's why. Okay, so let's draw this bone again. I just want to go from here to here. So I'm going to put turn. And instead of making a smart bone dial, I think I'm going to make it an action. Which it's the same thing, but the smart bone dial takes care of a couple of things for you automatically, like setting your angles and stuff. So I'm just going to go here. I'm going to create an action and call this turn. That's totally fine. And in the constraints now, we're going to say that its angle constraints, instead of negative 70 to 70, are going to be 90, or yeah, negative 90 to 0. That's what the numbers I wanted. So now it only goes this way. We're going to say close, and then at frame 48, we can turn this and go rip, and then now we can do everything this is supposed to do at that point. So we're going to make the body lean up a little bit. We're going to make the neck lean this way a little bit. We're going to make the head lean this way a little bit, maybe. And then this is just for the turning. Then we're going to take the face. We're going to probably just slide it over to hide it like this. And then the hair is going to have to change. This is the major part of all of this. The hair shape will be changing, obviously. And then I'm going to pull this in like this. So the hair is going to swing kind of that direction. So I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. All right, cool. This one can maybe come up. Let's make this a little smaller to get a better control on that. Obviously, this all needs to kind of change. Alright, let's just see what that looks like. So that is not bad. Not sure I like the shift so much. Oops. Those to be the same. That's not bad. I think I do want to make this hair kind of look like it's going into the front a lot more. That will be done with the... Why can't I see those? There we go. Let's just move these up. Those obviously need to be shortened, angled. All right, so let's double check that again. So right about halfway through, this is gonna kind of not be correct, so we'll fix that. Got to love the smart bone actions. I don't want this point coming down like that. There we go. Let's just see now. Turn. I'd believe that. Cool. All right, so now we have a little head turn action for this drummer as well. So when we are here, we need to lessen the power of that. And so anytime we want to make the woman look this way, we just go like that. And that'll save me animation time later, even though it took setup time right now. But the cool thing is anytime before then, we can kind of make her look back and forth. You know, the crowd here, you can also manipulate these bones just like, you know, any others as well. Why isn't that why is that fighting me? So you can make her move and say whatever, and then of course she turns and looks, and now we can, you know, make that happen here as well. Cool. All right, so that's figure one. These are going to be much more basic. They are background characters primarily. And I think, for one, the body line on that is way too skinny. But, yeah, these will also be able to turn. We're going to have to put bones the same, I think, because these still need to have to find the positions. So let's see, which one is drummer 5? It's going to be this one over here, I think. So we might as well start with these. Let's start with 4. And we're going to convert this top layer into it already is a bone layer, just no bones in it yet. So let's go ahead and give this a base, a abdomen, chest, neck, and head. Don't really think there's much else need for anything. So let's start out with telling these bones what they are and what they're doing. So this guy, the base here is going to take up the legs, obviously, straight away. Pow. The arm, I think we're just connected to that body bone with a little bit at the bottom again. Maybe none at the bottom, just that bone there I think will be fine. So we're going to say this bone, we're going to connect the arm layer to that bone. The body now, obviously point binding, so we're going to go, the root is going to be all of these points. And then the abdomen is going to be all these. Let's just get like that. This guy. It's going to be pretty much everything that's not shoulders. And yeah, I guess it can take these because I got to remember that's just neck. So let's go ahead and do those, including this. Bind. The neck, it's just going to be these top ones. That should be it for the body. And then the face, obviously, will be bound just to the head. Pow. And the hair is the one that needs some multiples here, so we'll go with the head bone, which is longer than the others, but I think it's fine. Let's see. That should be okay. The next bone, the neck, I don't know if there's anything really. I guess this one. Sure, why not? And then this guy is going to be all these remaining points. I probably kind of do want to include these. That way these don't wig out weird when those move separately. Okay, let's test this now. I'm going to go ahead and save. Save often as you can. All right, let's select all of our bones and take all the power out of those. So we don't need that flexi binding power. They're already point bound. And now we can move the head. Not bad. The neck, which obviously this is an issue here. Body, mostly yes. And this body, definitely yes. All right, so let's do a couple of actions here. So let's test the head to make sure. Yeah, let's fix this right here. So let's name this head. Let's call this neck. I'm just going to rename these all while I'm thinking about it. It's probably more efficient, right? Right. And this is going to be chest. Why not? I don't really have a naming convention for these. And this one's going to be body or base. Sure. Abdomen, you could call it. Root for this one, which is going to confuse me with the base, but root is definitely what that should be called. Back here to the head bone. And that head bone now is going to need a action. So we'll call this head. And that's going to be about 48. And then we're going to move that up. And I think that one's fine for that. But let's fix the hair just because we can. It's not going to hurt to do it right. Let's kind of pull that hair a little more back, a little more off the face. I think that's perfect. For when the head moves, the neck we'll worry about here. The neck, so back here, and then now let's make another action for the head bone. Cancel, we got to make sure we don't have anything selected other than the bone, and we need to be in the bone layer, so head 2, 48. What? What?
I'm writing something and then I'm going to put this on and I'm doing something.
So I'm going to pull this down here. Go to the hair. And then this can go down here. Probably straighten this out just a little bit. Let's see what happens. I think that's great. If anything needs to happen, the other side, maybe a little less of that. I think that's fine. Back to the main line. Now we come down to the neck bone, see if there's any problems with it. Let's see. Some. Okay, so straighten that out. That one is called neck, and we're going to create an action for it. A couple of actions. And let me just rotate this guy back here. Doesn't need to go back that far, but the whole point of this is to make it able to. Just in case. I'm just going to move these in a better place. I think that works. Maybe this a little more here like this. Okay, and obviously the body has an issue. So the face is fine. We're going to go with the body. You can see that warping like crazy from this to this. We don't want that. So let's move these points like this. This is when the neck moves, so you got to think, well, how would that be? And that is perfectly fine. And in fact, we could move the hair a bit as well when that happens. So on frame 48, we're going to move some of the hair. That way you can kind of see what happens there. Works fine. And back to the main line. Yeah, I think all those were fine for that. Back with neck on the bone layer. Once again, neck 2, frame 48. This can come down about there. The hair needs to be corrected. Let's figure out how much. Okay, so this all should come down. Something like that. That should definitely not go like that. Let's find out what's happening there. So that middle dot should still be like this. That's better. Okay, back to the main line. So we have the neck now. And let's go now with the upper back. Bone layer, very important. So this upper back, that's the chest. We're going to create a action for it. So frame 48, we're going to move it back this way. I think that one's okay. That looks pretty normal to me. I mean, maybe we'll drop this, you know, this sort of lump in the front, but not really a whole big need to. That could be point animated or whatever, but this is kind of, I guess this is kind of the point of doing the actions though, so that's okay. And then back to the main line, we'll do another one for that same bone. The other direction, chest 2, obviously. Frame 48. We'll move it forward. That's where we're going to get most of our trouble, probably. And then this is going to be body. And we'll just start moving some points around to be better. See where we're at and what's happening. Alright, so I want to kind of take these down a little more like that maybe. think that works for me. Let's just make sure it's good. Yeah, I think that's fine. Chest and chest 2. And then obviously the base bone here. Not the torso, I mean not the pelvis, but this other, not the root, but this lower back. So right here we'll give this one another action. Frame 48, we'll do it again. So there's a lot of repetition in doing this stuff. See, that one to me looks okay. We're gonna go ahead and adjust the body slightly here, but there's really it's not necessarily 100% necessary, I guess is what I was trying to say. So there we go, boom. I think the front is fine, looks fine. And then go back to the main line, back to here, we're doing one more action for it. This is gonna be going forward. So it's a lot of repetition, a lot of, you know, stuff you're doing again and again for each one of these figures. And a lot of times you may not have this many figures in a shot. Luckily, most of these are relatively simple characters, so it's not going to bog down too bad. But you know, it's still, you got to make them do what they got to do. Alright, so I just threw into the chat. Let's chat, guys. Okay, so let me go back here to the main line. We're going to test this drummer's kind of all-around movement. So got a little bit of rocking. No, that was racist. Okay, back to this. And it's not actually. I'm native, so I mean, yes, that is a sound that you make during drumming circles and chanting. The head movement's fine. The head movement's fine here. Alright, cool. Now, the turn that would happen here would expose the face a lot more if there was one. So that's something else we need to consider. So let's go ahead and do a turn for this drummer as well. Make sure none of your bones are selected. And we're going to create a new bone right above her head. And this one's going to be called turn. And this one, instead of a dial, yeah, we're going to do the same thing where we're going to make an action instead. So we're going to do that first. Turn. This action at 48, this action is going to be, like we said before, ankle constraints. And we're going to make sure that we go from 0 to -90. That way we can turn that direction. We'll say OK. And in this turn at frame 48, when this thing is pulled all the way down, we want the hair and body to move slightly. So I'm going to move the face first. It's going to move the layer over, I guess. Let me just center that. Move the layer over first. We're going to change the shape of that face to get more of a profile-y shape, which might have to have a nose after all, but I don't know. I don't think so 100% yet, but perhaps. And then the hair will obviously need to be adjusted here, so I'm just going to use the magnet first for the larger sweeping movements. We're going to bulk the back of the head out just a little more, push this slightly back. I don't want to expose what should be the neck if I don't have to. So this isn't like a full movement. This is just like, you know, twisting a little bit. And the body, this is going to be point animation. I mean, this isn't any bones or anything happening here. So this is going to be, you know, like so. So basically you're going to get like that. In fact, the arm is really just going to move forward. So now you're only going to get like this kind of thing. That's it. That's the turn. In fact, I think the hair might want to drag a little bit more here to where there's not so much movement. It kind of does that maybe. And I'll work on the face here in a bit because we don't want her turning into a moose or something weird like that. So let me just kind of adjust this to not be so strange. Let's see. That's better. Okay, works for me. Cool. So that is the 2 front drummers completed. So that was 4 and 3. So now we need 5. This needs a much larger outline on 5 for the body, at least. That is a skinny line there in my opinion. So I'm gonna go here to the proper frame. Let's just give this like a 2. We'll probably wind up doing this to everybody. I don't even know. I guess I did have legs in there. They're just not visible. We're not going to see them, so I'm not worried about that. Now this will have more of a face visible when we do that turn. I don't know how much of a movement we need, but it's going to kind of be the same no matter what. So I'm just going to start by adding the same bones. And just doing the same thing. So point binding all my layers. In fact, just for efficiency, I can grab all these and turn all the power down at the same time in the beginning. It's going to save a minute. The base layer, we're going to go with legs, which we'll just, we're never going to see them, but I am still going to bind them to that. The body layer, we're going to go with this here, and we're now going to bind that to this bone with these points. So lots of point binding. And then this bone with, I guess, all those guys. And if there's weird movement, you can always say use these points instead later on. So these particular ones, if it's everything from the, except for the neck, I should say, is going to be kind of this. And then of course the neck can bind to these couple of points, and that one's done for the body. The face, we're just going to mount it to the head layer, and the hair is the one that needs more work. So still super easy. We're going to take these, bind these. So the reason why it seems like I'm going fast is because I'm trying to make the most impact with the least amount of, controls. Why do I need all these controls for smiling faces and all this stuff for a scene that's not going to have it? Now, if I was going to take this particular character, repeat it 100 times, and needed to do backflips and whatnot, sure, I'd get a lot more control to that character across the board. A rig that would do everything, kind of thing. You can't really make a rig that does everything, though. It's something you just have to come to terms with when you do this kind of stuff. You might have to have 3 or 4 different rigs, 3 or 4 different versions of the character, so that it can do things. Let's see. So this one's going to, we're just going to check the movement of stuff right now. So that one seems okay, except for that's a little weird. This isn't going to move a lot, though, this character, this particular one. So I'm probably not going to do a bunch of smart bone actions. This just needs to be able to move a little. She's going to look up instead of turning and whatnot. So I think that one's done. I want to go back to this other drummer here, though, right here, and fix the outlining of the body, because that is, yet again, still way too... and it looks like I have an action, a bone strength that's way too high. We're going to go back to the body, though. That outline is just not thick enough, so we're going to come here and do a 2 on it as well. The arm should also have a 2. Just kind of deciding on this line width as I go. What seems to be, you know, more present, you know, than other things. These are obviously thinner because they're farther back. So I think that would make a lot of sense. Let's make sure that this drummer 3 also has the appropriate line widths. So legs, definitely too skinny. We're going to go with 2 on that. Why would I ever select 1? I don't know. 2. Body. 2. Now, why does this one look so much thicker? That's kind of weird. Oh, it's because it's a 3, dummy. So 2. We'll do that. The same with the arm. I think it went up to a 3. No, that's fine. The legs, 2. I think that's okay. And then this girl, poor girl, has no line width whatsoever. Let's just fix that. Legs, we're not really seeing, so I'm not worried about it. The body, though, definitely needs to be a 2. Yeah, I think that's much better. Cool. And I may go and add another shadow. I'm not sure. The fire will be a completely different story here. But let's see what we've got done and not. And now we start binding. So the legs going to be layer bound to the base. Body. It's going to point bind. This guy to these, and then this guy to these. Here we go. So it's very quick once you get going. I think I'm going to just do these to here.
I'm going to go get some clay.
Okay.
Oh, I guess I better put my shoes on.
And then these guys to here. I can go if you want.
It's up to you. I get breakfast, I guess.
Okay, and I think this is pretty good for the moment. This is pretty much, it's a repetitive process. Hey, Jay? Yes, everything was made in Moho. So I can see it now. And you can see when I move these guys or gals, this one's got a turn that I put in here. Obviously all the movements here, you know, for headbanging and yeah, this is a great concert, you know, and blah blah blah. They're kind of held in place by this root, but the body does lean and move, and the neck and the head move, like I said, as well as being able to turn when they hear a sound off in the forest. So I've done the bones for these 3 front ones. I'm working on this 4th right now, and then we'll work on these 2 ladies in the back. And that will be that. These faces probably need to be bigger so that they kind of match and scale with the ones in the back. But yes, everything made in Moho, and I'm going mostly here for point binding. Yeah, it's not rubber hose. It's nothing like that. So I'm just point binding gives me exactly what I want with some corrective actions. So yep, cool. No, not AI. No, this is Photoshop You can see some copy and paste of branches here and whatnot. And of course, yeah, this is all, I can show you the characters are turn off and onable as well. Let me show you, like, say, one of these ladies from the back, like here, see? And if I open them up, you can see that they're all 100%, you know, Photoshop pieces. I say Photoshop, but it's all separated layers is what I'm saying. This is all, it is all Moho. So yeah, they're all drawn in here. I can show you like the points of each character and whatnot. So then I'm going to use liquid shapes to make the fire animated, of course. Cool. Thank you. I appreciate that. All right, I'm going to go. I've got to go to the store and get some breakfast. So appreciate you guys watching. We'll pick up more on this